Sound adds color and helps us make sense of our world. But imagine if the rainbow rain shower sounded like this, or the city sounded like this. Or, as Dr. Philip Griffin demonstrates, a simple sentence sounded like this. The red ball hit the wall. So mild hearing loss would sound something like, the red ball hit the wall.
So you can still make it out, especially because you know what I'm saying. And then as it gets more and more severe, it becomes more muffled, it becomes more bassy, more rumbly, and more mumbly, essentially. Which is why people with hearing loss say it sounds like everyone is mumbling. Because what they hear is kind of like a thing like that.
I really struggled, and I would have to ask them to repeat themselves, and it was really difficult. Sometimes it was embarrassing.
Robin Cann's world started becoming muffled when she was 21.
It was mostly that I was hearing less and less. Higher pitched frequencies, I was not even hardly getting anything, or word endings sometimes were really difficult for me. It's about that time that I started learning some coping skills. You know what I mean? I would know that if I went into, say, a meeting or a conference or something, I would know exactly where to sit. I would see, who was the speaker, where the speaker was going to stand, and then that's where I would be. Or when someone talks to me, I made sure that they knew that they had to look at me.
But gradually, those coping skills weren't enough. A degenerative hearing disorder was taking her hearing. And as the condition worsened, she felt her world closing in.
When it came to social settings, I would just seclude myself, or, I wouldn't get in the midst of big conversations, because if more than one person was talking at the same time, I would just not be able to pick up on either conversations. So I kind of wasn't as social as I used to be. I got very nervous about being in situations like that.
Can is not alone. The federal government reports almost 48 million Americans suffer from some type of hearing loss. And a hearing loss can affect everyone from a toddler to a senior citizen. The symptoms range from total hearing loss to tinnitus, or a ringing in the ear. But the problem is compounded for seniors. New research shows older adults with hearing loss are more likely to develop dementia over time.
That even a mild hearing loss doubles the risk of dementia, which is pretty astonishing. Mild hearing loss is also correlated with increased depression and social isolation.
While the link between hearing loss and dementia is unclear, it's believed the more isolated the senior becomes, the greater the risk of dementia. Hearing loss in seniors also increases the risk of falls and adds to diminished physical and mental health.
When you can't understand, maybe you don't hear, or maybe you just don't understand, after a while, or if people think you're talking funny or acting funny, they withdraw and they don't talk anymore.
The challenge then is to get seniors, as well as friends, family, and physicians, to pay attention.
If people aren't hearing, or people don't seem like they're seeing things as well as they used to get the vision and the hearing checked. Because as people get older, when they have problems that affect their brains and their vision or their hearing, it's often the hearing and vision that are the most treatable part of the problem. So in effect, you get a chain reaction where if the input signal is degraded to some degree, and other parts of the processing stream are also not working as well, the net effect of it is going to be much more significant than if any one piece alone was affected.
When you think you have a memory issue, see a doctor. Not when you know you have a memory issue.
Acoustic phone.
By the way, Robin got her first hearing aid at 40. We met her as she was getting a new model of hearing aid adjusted.
I mean, when you're, hearing impaired and everything about your life, your work, your relationships, your social life, it covers all of that. And if you can't hear, it makes a huge difference.